Hello everyone, welcome back to POLYCOSM for a new episode of Concept Creation. This time, we are working on creating a creature concept, mainly focusing on the torso part. As a change of pace, we wanted to create a design that has strong horror elements to it, with some Lovecraftian influences. Even though Lovecraft's writings were usually about indescribable cosmic horrors. But I think these days Lovecraftian tends to mean something with tentacles. So yeah, we wanted to design something with a tentacle face. Here's a rough reference board I put together as usual, with nothing specific in mind really, just shapes and textures that I think look interesting. We kept this very loose and vague at the beginning intentionally, as this was part of the challenge. You'll see that this has created some difficulty for me to nail down a direction later on. Sometimes at the beginning of a project, I make some sketches that would be only for me. No clients or art directors would see them. I'm sharing this with you guys because I kinda like you and you all seem cool. This brainstorming stage helps me get my head into gear, especially if the project has very vague parameters and I'm not quite sure where to begin. It can also help me understand if my first instincts are a bit off. This way I get rid of all those ideas that pop into my head at the beginning right away, and I can decide, okay, this will work, this doesn't work, and can get rid of stuff that's not going to really work out in the long term at a really early stage. In this case, for some reason, I was really stuck on the idea of creating a generic monstrous creature thing. You can see some examples of it here, nothing that looks really exciting or interesting in any way. After struggling with these for some time, Christina suggested that this being should look like it has sentience, but without looking too humanoid. Around this time, I felt like I've hit a wall. I felt like I couldn't come up with any good ideas. Anything I could manage to draw felt like it was being painfully dragged out of my head. I'm sure we've all been there and possibly will be in that situation again at some point in the future. This kind of creative block doesn't happen to me often, but this time it really stopped me in my tracks. If you look up ways to overcome a creative block like this, you'll end up finding a million articles written and videos made on this topic. And honestly, most of that just sounds like puff pieces put together with generic, obvious advice that lacks any real substance, at least to me. And the reason for that is this is such a personal problem that it requires a very personalized solution. We all end up in that place due to a combination of a variety of reasons, and best way out and forward is through being honest with ourselves and understanding how we got there in the first place. So in my case, taking some time off to reflect on myself and coming to certain conclusions and decisions helped me finally break through that a little and be able to proceed with the project. And I know this is very vague advice that doesn't specifically tell you a solution like go for a walk and you'll have all the inspiration right away. Although, sometimes that can work, but most of the time you will realize things might be more complicated than that. I guess this is why I didn't make a video with a clickbaity title that says, "This one art trick will help you overcome creative block." Even though I'm sure that would have been more popular, I don't think it would have been honest. So don't get stuck on the fact that you're stuck too much and try to come to a pragmatic solution through some self-reflection. I think the more you hit those walls and break through them, the more you get to know yourself and learn how to overcome these obstacles. Much like everything else, it's a matter of practice. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back to the concept creation. Now, I have a page of sketches that I like the direction of. I think these sketches are working a lot better than the previous round, mostly because we have more unique silhouettes here, and also I really like some of the bold shape design. Including more of the torso into the design has also helped give it a stronger direction. Besides all that, I quite like the idea of these abstracted, fragmented shapes that are kind of breaking away from the creature itself. I think it kind of gives it this really cool, interesting, otherworldly feeling. If we look back at some of my references again, you'll see how I'm interpreting some of the shape design seen here into the sketches. I talked about different ways of using reference in our previous video, so if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend checking that out. After having a look at these, Christina wanted to kitbash with them a little. She came up with this concept, which then I took and reworked further. Once we had something we both liked, all I had to do was to sketch it from a couple of different angles for her. With concepts like this, trying to envision it from multiple angles can be quite tricky, but this is also a really good form of practice to develop your ability to be able to see things in 3D in your mind's eye, and also build your visual library. I'm not defining everything in a strict manner this time, but leaving certain things for Christina's interpretation. The concept we are working with is weird and uncanny enough that we can get away with quite a bit of artistic license. I'm trying to imply the textures as best as I can in this phase, but I will also create a little texture callout sheet at the end. This is a very common technique used within the pipeline to ensure the 3D artist can create an accurate model. And here's the final concept sheet. And the texture callout. As you can see, all I have to do is add some reference photos along with my concept while passing it on to Christina, and now she has a lot of information on how the forms and the surfaces need to look like in the final sculpt. And afterwards, I can reinforce these with a paint over as well. And that's it for this episode, everyone. I wanted to cut this one a little shorter since the process is nothing new you guys probably haven't seen before, but wanted to talk more about the struggles we might all face trying to come up with ideas out of nowhere. If you like this video, maybe subscribing might be a good idea. Who knows? If you didn't like it, feel free to let us know why in the comments. As always, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next week with a new video. Bye everyone.